Good morning, everyone. This is SAAD. As I woke up this morning, I went into my emails, and as nearly happens on a daily basis, I have some emails from either students, professors, and or parents of students sharing with me their realities dealing with the idea pathogens that I've been describing for so many years. So today I thought I would read for you one such email that I just received late last night and read this morning prior to sharing it here with you. Of course, I will protect the anonymity or the identity of the person in question, but the student in question asks some questions in the email, which I will try and answer here to the best of my ability. So here we go. And this, by the way, should give you a good sense of why I do the things that I do. For those of you who think, isn't the problem exaggerated? Aren't you pushing a narrative of how bad the campus lunacy is, but in reality it's much better than that? No. How many people need to be intimidated into silence, compelled to write me emails of desperation before the enemies of reason are willing to say there's a real problem here? These idea pathogens have now seeped their way into every possible crevice in academia, in journalism, in the entertainment industry, in high tech, in HR departments. Countries are led by people who are nothing but walking idea pathogens. Think of our own Prime Minister in Canada. So, if anything, I'm understating how severe the problem is. So here we go. Add this data point to the infinite list that I've already shared with you. So here we go. All right. Dear Professor SAAD, I'm a longtime fan, writing to wish you well and thank you for the immense impact your online content has had on my life. It is extremely informative and a candle of sanity in this tempest of insanity. Thank you for your kind words. I am a freshman at, I'll withhold the name of the university, majoring in industrial design, and I'm currently transferring to another school. Besides changing schools due to my shifting interests towards automotive design and choosing to specialize in this field, the horrors of the DIE religion, DIE stands for diversity, inclusion, and equity, and the postmodern left have also influenced my decision to transfer universities. Doesn't seem like this student thinks it's trivial what is happening at university campuses. I consider myself relatively moderate, and I'm also mostly quote right-wing when it comes to economic issues. This year really tested my classical liberal sensibilities and never expected universities to be this bad. It almost reads like a parody of social justice straight out of a Tatiana McGrath bit. My freshman year was packed with liberal arts classes where Marxist, post-colonial, and queer studies, among other social sciences, were shoved down my throat. Even in art history lectures, we were taught the evils of Western colonialism and how, quote, whiteness and capitalism, close quote, is the cancer which is restricting the world from reaching the great utopia that they proclaim. I've been warning you about this for more than 2 decades. I just bit my tongue and suffered through the Western and white bashing, working hard to keep my grades up and move past my foundation year. There was one event where an intersectional teacher told me I couldn't speak out a criticism of postmodernism in a class debate as my, quote, privilege as a white male was restricting other students from contributing, close quote. The light at the end of the tunnel for me was knowing that once I moved into the desired major, I could specialize in industrial design, and these garbage required classes had to endure were only limited to my freshman year. Again, you cannot imagine the number of emails that I received from students enunciating roughly the exact same despair. Mid-year, it became apparent to me that even in my major, something as non-political as industrial design had become tainted at my university. Major specific days and design seminars talked about, quote, decolonizing your designs, close quotes, and designing for a, quote, just and equitable future, close quote. Orwellian posters proclaiming, quote, drag is beautiful and no human being is illegal on stolen land, close quote, adorned the halls of studios in an almost nightmarish fashion. Throughout the dogmatic word salad that was thrown at me by my professors and deans, it became apparent that no part of my schooling was uninfected by these idea pathogens. I love the fact that my terms, the die religion, idea pathogens, are now part of the vernacular. You're welcome, world. More so, my peers had taken the ideology hook, line, and sinker and felt completely like an outsider. My attempts to debate or challenge ideas only made me look more and more like a rambling and disgruntled madman to them. There was your mistake. How dare you challenge the status quo, the orthodoxy? Shut up, boy or girl, and just be indoctrinated. As bleak as this all sounds, I'm currently doing well, happy to hear it, and I'm much more optimistic as I'm transferring to another university where I feel the culture and specificity and rigor of my classes will suit me far better. I do have one question I would love for you to address on an episode of the SAAD Truth. Ask and you shall receive. If you have the time, assuming my information will be kept anonymous. Don't worry. It's anonymous. So here are his or her questions. Do you think the growing woke culture in universities will continue growing and weaving its way into many non-social science majors, corrupting other regions of study? Yes. Or will it burn itself out in the coming decade as the pendulum swings too far to the left and resistance builds? It will eventually lose. Knowledge is evolutionary. There is a field called evolutionary epistemology. The good ideas eventually get selected. The bad ones, it might take a long time, get selected out, but it won't be in a decade. So yes, they will lose the battle of ideas, but it will take more than a decade. Do you think COVID-19 and its effect could reduce the stranglehold wokeness has on academia? I've thought about this and I've commented on it. Let me repeat it here. An animal is most dangerous when it is wounded, when it is cornered, when it is, if you like, fighting for its last breath. And so, no, I don't expect that the pandemic will eradicate the coronavirus of the human mind, all these idea pathogens. To the contrary, in many cases, we see a doubling down of some of these ideas. The world is doing better if it is led by female prime ministers. Regarding the coronavirus, that is an idea pathogen, right? It's identity politics as relating to ovaries. Don't mention where the coronavirus comes from because racism, #viruses have no origin. So, I don't think that we've seen the tail end of this nonsense. The United Nations just put out a tweet where they're explaining the types of words you should be using instead of other words so that you don't use gendered language. The United Nations is spending their time doing this. So, regrettably, it's not going to end anytime soon. Thank you for taking the time to read this. You are an amazing guiding light through these uneasy times, and your show kept me sane during my long, exasperating days at university. I wish you and your family good health through these difficult times, sincerely. You're welcome, and thank you for writing in. Again, to all those of you who might be watching this clip, realize that this is not some esoteric issue that a very handsome and brilliant Canadian professor living in Montreal is taking on as his cause célèbre. Rather, I'm simply the guy who has repeatedly warned you that, notwithstanding the fact that most students go about their business unencumbered by this idiocy, there is a group of committed intellectual terrorists at universities that have been spewing their nonsense for 40, 45, 50 years, that have now escaped the university settings. The people who were trained by these miscreants, these cretins of reason, are now leading countries, leading companies, leading HR departments. And so this is not some esoteric fight that I decided to take on so that, I could become popular on YouTube. It's because I exist in that ecosystem. I evaluate grants written by students who've been so parasitized by this stupidity that they're wasting their lives away. They're wasting their money, their parents' hard-earned money. Now again, as I've repeatedly said, there's nothing wrong with studying in the humanities, in the social sciences, in the natural sciences. I'm not one who denigrates a field because it doesn't use Bunsen burners and petri dishes, or it doesn't strictly adhere to the scientific method. You can be someone who's studying Shakespeare in the humanities, and you can be contributing to the pantheon of human knowledge. The problem comes when your whole discipline is rooted in a rejection of reality, in a rejection of common sense, in a anti-science, anti-logic, anti-reason ethos, as is the case in postmodernism and radical feminism and identity politics and all of the other idea pathogens that I discuss in my forthcoming book. So this is not going to go away, but hopefully enough people are now starting to slowly murmur, speak out against this, that once everybody develops the courage to speak out in unison against this nonsense, then we could eventually eradicate it and put it into the dustbin of history. And again, forgive me for reminding you that my forthcoming book is available for pre-order. It really is important. If you're interested in eventually buying the book, to pre-order it as soon as you can. I'll put links to the Amazon platforms, the UK one, the Canadian one, and the US one, if you'd like to pre-order your book now. Again, to this young student who wrote me, thank you for your kind words. Hang in there. Reason shall prevail. Cheers, everybody.